following podcast is scheduled for one fall. Coming down the aisle, Matt, Dave, the SuperPlex Brothers!
Yo, 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 it is that time again. I'm Dave.
And I'm Matt.
And we are the SuperPlex Brothers. And we have a big show today. Of course, we're going to start things off on a sad note.
Very sad note, unfortunately.
Recently, this week, the legendary Mae Young passed away at the age of 90, no less. Very long and fruitful life, but definitely somebody who is going to have a great legacy behind them, and arguably the toughest son of a bitch that ever lived.
She was supposed to wrestle for the Divas Championship, though.
Yeah, unfortunately, Death decided to use his finisher on her.
Well, she
But
kicked
she
out
did
at
kick out at 2.
Yeah, she kicked out at 2 at one point.
She kicked out at 2. But even Death can't be overcome, I guess, completely. But our condolences go to the friends and family of Mae Young. But at least, you know what? Mae Young's death, while sad, it's kind of also it's kind of fucked up to say, but it's kind of a happy news because it's one of those things where usually when you hear about death in wrestling, it's usually some kid who was way too goddamn young in his like 30s or late 20s, and he died from some kind of drug overdose or just some horrible circumstance that makes the wrestling industry look like it's a gutter. But Mae Young lived a long and very dignified life.
Yes, she did.
And the stories about Mae Young that I've heard are just ridiculous. I think I shared one with you, the one with Bob Holly.
Yeah.
Where Mae Young and Moolah are scheduled to have a match with the Hollies, Crash and Hardcore, and they're trying to work out the match, and Mae Young says that she wants Bob to clothesline her, and he goes, "Listen, Mae, with all respect, I'm not gonna, I don't know if I should do that because when I clothesline you, I'm gonna hit you hard," and she basically responds with, "Bring it, motherfucker."
Yep.
And she wasn't just tough in her old age either. When she was young, this one I read too. Apparently there was a female wrestler who not only wrestled men, but wrestled bears and crocodiles or alligators and shit.
Oh, God.
And before Mae became a wrestler, she actually challenged the woman to a match in the ring. And the booker said no. So Mae Young found out where she worked and beat the piss out of her in a shoot. In mere seconds.
That's awesome.
Hey, yeah. Mae Young, I know Bubba Ray Dudley or now Bully Ray, but he said in an interview that when they went to go do the spot for the powerbomb through the stage, that he told Mae originally, "Listen, I'm going to tell you how to do this so that you take none of the bump. So that I take the full brunt of it." And Mae goes, "Stop being a pussy. Powerbomb me like a real man."
God, she was fucking awesome, man.
Mae Young was, I mean, for all intent and purposes, Mae Young was the fucking man.
Yeah.
She really was one of the toughest sons of bitches, and truly the more appreciated between her and Moolah.
Yeah.
The stories of Moolah, unfortunately, are not as endearing. I don't know if you've heard the stories of Moolah.
Mm-mm.
Like how Moolah was like the dirtiest politician in the back during her heyday. Like, flat out pimped out the girl she was training to get him a job.
What?
Yeah, as like fucking sex workers.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
Like, I mean, I've heard. I don't know how true that is. I'm only going by what I've heard. But I don't know if you know. I don't know if you noticed. They did a huge tribute for Mae Young on YouTube when Mae Young died. They didn't do shit for Moolah when she died.
That's true.
That I mean, maybe Moolah had some kind of fucking political grasp on the McMahons or something. Because I've heard stories that her politicizing in the back is worse than like Hogan.
Oh God.
That says a lot.
That does say a whole lot, actually.
But this is not about Moolah. Fuck Moolah. This is about Mae Young. Mae Young was fucking awesome, and even in the fucking last moments of her life, she went out as one of the toughest motherfuckers in the world. And I don't have a mug of beer on me, but I got a bottle of water. I'm raising it up for her. Cheers, Mae Young.
Alright, so on to brighter news.
Yeah, with that out of the way, let's get to some good news.
The WWE Network.
Holy shit. This was announced earlier this week, or last week. Man, nobody thought it was going to be as good as it was. Everybody thought it was going to be a huge flop. Because I think the reason why everybody thought it was going to be a huge flop was because they thought it was going to be like an actual channel on television.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's going to be like a wrestling equivalent to Netflix.
Except better.
The shit is yes, except better. And the shit that they're offering just sweetens the deal so much. Even if you're not a WWE fan, even if you were a fan of like ECW or WCW or AWA, or I don't know if these are all being part of it, but I know that huge fucking library is all going in.
Yeah. Like, if you're a wrestling fan at any point in time, you're going to be covered by this service.
Yeah, they're gonna have all the episodes of Nitro, all the episodes of ECW. I don't know if they're gonna have all of like AWA and stuff like that, but I know they are gonna have all the pay-per-views of WCW and ECW, as well as live coverage, live pay-per-views of current pay-per-views going on.
Yeah,
That's
basically
the real
for
sweet
free.
deal. Well, they said at no additional charge than the main cover price.
Yeah.
But this deal is so goddamn good. The pay-per-views themselves are fucking worth it.
Exactly.
The fact that you get the pay-per-views, the monthly pay-per-views, at no additional charge is so fucking worth it.
And the
on
first
its own.
one you get is Wrestle fucking Mania.
Yeah.
That's a $70 pay-per-view.
Yeah. Actually, it's an $80 pay-per-view.
Oh, down here it's 70.
Well, when we got it last year, it was 80.
Oh, yeah, we only paid 70 last year. Haha. Connecticut.
Yeah.
Connecticut sucks.
I think it was a Comcast thing.
Wow.
But the fucking this deal is so sweet. You're gonna have, and on the WWE side of things, you're gonna have every Raw, every SmackDown, every Superstars, every main event, and you know what else they're bringing?
NXT. Yes.
It is such a relief. I'm gonna be able to watch NXT on HD television. I'm going to be able to watch pay-per-views whenever I want, because I'm sure the pay-per-views are still going to be up if you don't watch them Sunday night.
Oh, yeah.
You know? Say you have some... And that's the beauty of it. It's like, oh, you know what? I would love to have been able to watch it live, but I can't. And now I just don't get to watch it all. Nope, it's probably still going to be there for the remainder of the week or forever.
Probably forever, I'd say. The way they talked about it, I'd probably say forever.
That's just, like... It's so convenient for a wrestling fan. Not even a WWE fan. For a wrestling fan, it's convenient. And the price. $9.99. $10 fucking dollars for all of that. For access to their complete library.
Yeah. It does say you have to make a 6-month commitment.
It's so fucking what?
Wait, does that mean you have to pay $60 up front, or just make sure you pay for at least 6 months?
I don't know, but even still, that's like, so what? With all the shit you get, that's worth it.
Right.
And it's not even just the older content you're getting. You're getting new stuff, too. Raw and SmackDown are going to have pre- and post shows. There's going to be new content altogether, like that new show about the Legends House.
Yeah, and WWE Countdown.
And WWE Countdown, and I'm sure that they're going to be putting all the other shows on there, too. Like, I think they said Total Divas is going to be on there, which I could do without, but if you're into that, that's going to be on there. I'm sure they're probably going to put the YouTube stuff on there.
Oh god, the JBL and Cole show.
If JBL and Cole get their own half-hour show a week, that would be awesome.
Yep.
I also wouldn't mind having Are You Serious back on there, because I liked Are You Serious. But hell, there is just so much stuff. There is going to be hours after hours after hours after hours after hours of content, and just so much stuff that, and it'll keep growing. That's the thing. It will keep growing. It is a lifetime of footage and material and content dedicated to wrestling fans.
And you know what? A lot of people have said this, even non-wrestling fans, like ever since the network was revealed, that this probably will be the future of how TV stuff is broadcasted. They
And
think
that's how it should
WWE
be.
is revolutionizing television again.
And that's how it should be.
Yeah.
If this is the way of the future, I am all for it. And honestly, how many channels do you honestly watch on television?
Not many.
I barely watch television at all. You know what I watch on television? Wrestling. That's what I watch on television. Occasionally the news, but mostly wrestling. So for me, that's all I would really need. Because the rest of the shit I watch, I can watch on YouTube.
Right.
But I am so hyped for the WWE Network. I know we're definitely getting it in this household.
Getting it in this household too.
I don't know if they've said all the things that it's going to be on, like what devices it'll work with. I know.
Sony devices are gonna have it. Sony home consoles.
So that includes like the PS3 and stuff?
It's PS3 and PS4, and Xbox 360 with apparently Xbox One support coming later for some reason.
Yeah, aren't they avoiding Nintendo though?
Nintendo did not get it.
Which, that's a shame.
Now, it could be added later like the Xbox One.
Maybe. I don't see why they wouldn't put it on Nintendo Wii U.
It could be a Nintendo issue.
Maybe Nintendo doesn't want it.
Yeah.
I don't know. If they don't, then they're heel of the century.
Yeah, I mean, we know how open arms Sony has to come about anything anyone wants to put on their consoles, so it's no big surprise that they got both the PS4 and PS3 on there. I think it works with iOS and Android devices too, so it's kind of on the go as well.
Yeah, and I think it is going to be on most mobile devices too. Well, most, modern mobile devices.
Which just makes it even sweeter.
I'm assuming if it can take Netflix, it can take WWE Network.
Yeah.
But I am looking forward to this. You're looking forward to this, Matt. I'm sure anybody who is a wrestling fan is looking forward to this. The only way that you wouldn't be accommodated by this is if you're a Ring of Honor fan or a TNA fan and strictly a fan of those products.
Yeah.
Will not watch anything else. That's the only way I could see that you would not want the WWE Network. Because even if you don't want the pay-per-views, let's say you hate modern WWE and everything it stands for, and you only like Attitude Era and only WCW and ECW.
Well, you're in luck. Yeah, you're in luck.
You get all that. You get all of that and more. And more. Say you're only a fan of that stuff, but maybe on a random occasion, maybe you saw a match on a pay-per-view from the modern era that you thought, this is a good match. I want to check that match out again. Guess what? You can.
Yep.
Or let's say they do put AWA up. I've never watched AWA before. Let's check that out.
Well, hell, if you're like me and you didn't get in to wrestling until, 2007, I can now go back and truly hit like that Attitude Era stuff that I never really got to experience.
Which I'm sure me and Matt will end up watching shit together.
Hell, it could be a new segment on the podcast. Or we go back every week and we watch old school wrestling and we talk about it.
Maybe we'll watch like one show of like an old school wrestling, like maybe a pay-per-view or something.
Yeah. I mean, hell, see, it even opens up future things for this podcast.
I know one thing I'm going to take advantage of is all them Nitros. Because when I was a kid, I watched a little bit of Nitro, but I only watched the first hour before Raw came on. Once Raw came on, I watched Raw.
And see, as a kid, my dad watched it, but I wasn't really into it. But he was on Team WCW. So Raw was never even put on in the house. It was Nitro or nothing.
Yeah, so I'm going to be taking advantage of the old school Nitros. And even ECW. I mean, I didn't really watch much of the stuff before it was on TNN. And honestly, if they have stuff like AWA and Smoky Mountain and NWA, oh my god, if they get the old NWA stuff, like the Jim Crockett and the Mid-South and all that shit, if they put that on the WWE Network, I will be even more sold. Because I'm a huge fan of guys like Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes who were in the NWA, but were doing that stuff before I was even born.
Yep.
That I never got a chance to watch because it was before I was born, and even if I was alive during that time, wasn't broadcast up here.
Yep.
So if that footage is on there too, I will be a happy man. But I know the only thing that we know so far is that WCW is definitely going to be on there. Whether or not that includes NWA, Jim Crockett Promotions, I don't know, because I know that it technically was that Jim Crockett Promotions was technically, the same company, but they changed it once Ted Turner bought it. I don't know if it's strictly going to be just that, product or not. Because there was Starcades and all that stuff before WCW was around.
Yeah.
So, NWA Starcades. So, who knows? Maybe that stuff would be on there. I would love to see AWA stuff on there. And the WWE Network also leaves possibilities for future stuff. Like, what if WWE cut a deal with Japan and got all Japan archive footage and New Japan archive footage?
Oh my god, dude. Oh my god.
And they cut a deal and we got that shit on there.
I will just tell Vince to buy out TNA right now and just add their library to it while he's at it.
Yeah, or what if he cuts a deal with Mexico and we get some AAA stuff on there?
This is probably going to change wrestling forever. Let's just be straight up about it.
It's going to change wrestling. It's going to change how we view wrestling forever. You know what? You got all these douchebag pundits out there going, "Heard their wrestling's fake and gay."
Speaking of, I guess now's a good time to throw in our Heel of the Week segment.
Yes, our Heel of the Week. Some douchebags from CNBC. I don't remember their names, and their names aren't worth remembering.
But basically, they wrote an article about the network and how the network is going to kill WWE, and they go on to tastefully bash wrestling fans. And I'm going to read this word for word. They said, the article opens up. Good news for professional wrestling fans. No, it's not actually real. However, now you can enjoy wrestling 24 hours a day, 7 days a week from the comfort of your parents' basement.
Yeah, go fuck yourself, buddy. Why don't we just take something you like and shit all over it?
Well, you know what? Good news for NFL fans. You can now use NFL Sunday Ticket on your PS3 to watch NFL from your parents' basement.
Yeah.
It's not a very nice thing to say.
You know what? You know what? Fuck it. We never go over this shit, but let's talk about it now. The whole wrestling is fake thing. You know what? We know that. We've known that forever. We've known that when we were children. We know
Hell,
that now
the
as
first
adults.
thing my dad told me when I first watched Nitro with him was, "Hey son, this stuff is fake, but it's still good."
Yeah. We know it's fake. We've known that forever. You know what else is fake? Movies. Plays. Television shows.
Most television shows are completely scripted.
That shit's all fake.
But do you keep watching it? Yes.
Yes, you do. So, coming up to me, or coming up to Matt, or any other wrestling fan and saying, heard there, that shit's fucking gay.
It's still real to me, damn it!
We're not going to pull a Ready to Rumble and scream, it's not fake! No, we know it's fake. It's old news. You people are the ones that still think about that shit. Catch up with the rest of us, will you? If you don't like it, that's fine. I don't like half the shit most people watch. I'm not going to tell you you can't watch it. And honestly, just keep your fucking mouth shut. That's all I ask. Leave your shitty opinion to yourself. That's all. You like what you like, I like what I like. And that's how it works, and I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yep.
But enough of the negativity. Well,
back to the more positive things. The WWE Network is going to be awesome. It launches February 24th, right after Raw. $9.99.
11:06 p.m.
Get fucking hype. I'm sure we'll probably get more hype as we get closer to the date.
And hopefully they'll start revealing more stuff that's going to be on there.
Yeah.
So that is going to be fucking awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
And I think anybody looking forward to it.
And I think anybody who is a wrestling fan is looking forward to it. If you're not looking forward to the WWE Network, you have no right to call yourself a wrestling fan at that point.
Honestly.
You really don't, because WWE is finally giving you what you want. Access to that fucking library. So even if you're a herp derp like this status, if you agree, bring back Attitude Era faggot, then, you know what? You're still going to be accommodated.
Yep, because you're going to have the entire Attitude Era at your fingertips.
Yes. That includes all the Raws and SmackDowns, all the pay-per-views, all the Sunday... well, I don't know if they didn't actually flat out say this, but I'm sure it's going to come with it anyway. But the Sunday Night Heats, the Shotgun Saturday Nights. If it was on television, you're probably getting it. And you know what's even cooler? They're not even going to censor out Chris Benoit.
Oh my god, yes. They're just going to air a little disclaimer, kind of like before that in an episode of South Park, letting you know, hey, Chris Benoit is on this episode. You can't say we didn't warn you.
We don't condone what he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't condone what he did. You know. And you know what? That's fucking fine. You know? As long as they don't edit it, which they say they're not, but, you know, sometimes they say they're not and they end up doing shit that they say they weren't going to do. But here's hoping anyway. Here's hoping. Because you know what? If they edited out Chris Benoit, that's so much shit that they would have to get rid of.
I think that's why they're not doing it.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So, I'm hyped for this fucking thing on all fronts. I'm not even, regardless of the Chris Benoit situation, the fact is, this is still going to be an awesome goddamn thing. And we're all looking forward to this. speaking of things about looking forward to stuff, we're not looking forward to this. Let's talk about Raw.
Oh man, I was home for this Raw, so that only means one thing.
It sucked.
Yeah, and it did.
I mean, it wasn't the worst Raw I've ever seen. There was definitely worse, but there's some shit here that just pissed me off. We will start with the positives, though. What kind of positives, depending on how you view this. One thing of note, they did announce the first Hall of Fame inductee, and it's going to the Ultimate Warrior, so congratulations to him. Congratulations to Warrior, because that is his legal name now.
Oh wow.
And, yeah.
Props, it's about time.
Yeah, I mean, say what you will about Warrior, you know, he is a shitty human being, but, hey, he was a major part of wrestling.
Yep.
So, yeah. Definitely worth being in the Hall of Fame.
Now, before we really get into Raw, I'm going to go out outright and say that I am not a big fan of pre-Rumble Raws. Typically, the Raws between TLC and the Royal Rumble are filler.
Yeah, not a whole lot of story progression tonight, or, well, not tonight, but on that episode of Raw.
I mean, it's because there's not much you can build up to because most guys in the roster are in the Rumble.
Yeah, I mean, there was a couple of things built up. Some stuff built up good, some stuff not. We'll start off with just the important stuff. The first match of the night is the Usos versus Daniel Bryan and Bray Wyatt. Now, on the last Raw before this one, we actually didn't cover because we weren't there that week. And we're gonna cover schedule stuff later on in the show because the next couple of weeks is gonna be kind of iffy. But the they had I think it was the Usos in that match last week. But it was the Usos and Rey Mysterio versus Daniel Bryan and Luke Harper and Eric Rowan. But Harper, Rowan, and Bryan lost. And Daniel Bryan cut a promo in the back saying, you guys need to trust me. And, I don't care which one of you I team up with next week. Let's team up and face the Usos. And Bray Wyatt says, you don't got to worry about that. I'll be teaming up with you. And that's what led to this match. And the match ends with the Usos going over by DQ. Because Harper and Rowan get involved. Now, of course, they blame Daniel Bryan for the loss because the Usos managed to get away from the beating. And what happens? Daniel Bryan stands there and takes his sister Abigail. Now we're thinking, oh Jesus Christ, is this really how it's going down? Is it really going to end up being they're just going to blame Daniel Bryan for everything and he's just going to get the shit kicked out of him every week? So we also get a rematch between John Cena and Damien Sandow. John Cena wins. It was actually a really back and forth match though. Very solid match between the two. It was probably on par with their Money in the Bank match.
Yeah.
Not money, the cash in, not the pay-per-view.
Of course.
But I mean, as far as a good match goes, and at least this time Cena had two arms, so Sandow actually looked good and not like shit. Anything else of note? We have a tag team match between the New Age Outlaws and CM Punk versus The Shield. And the only reason why we're mentioning this is because I predicted something.
Moments before it happened, even.
Yeah, moments before it happened. I said, okay, so when are the Outlaws going to betray Punk because they're allied with Triple H as being members of DX? There you go. That match, CM Punk goes for the tag, and both the Outlaws leave. And they do this typical heel shit where they have their heads down and they're very quiet.
And they just walk to the back.
And they're walking away all fucking somber and shit. And the commentator's like, where are they going, Maggle? And King's like, oh! Weep whoop! Paul's like, not this way, damn it!
And then Punk gets beaten.
Punk gets speared to hell. And the Shield win. AJ had a match with Tamina against the Funkadactyls, and yes, I know this is a Divas match, but we're going to talk about it because it looks like they're actually setting up for a feud between AJ Lee and Naomi, which I'm okay with this. It's about time another Diva got a chance at the title. Yes, it's true, Naomi is a total diva, but you know what? I like Naomi. In the
You don't
past,
like
she's
her
been...
because of her ass.
No, I've liked Naomi before that. She's always been athletic, and at FCW she did have some great matches, even with divas that, you know, should never have been hired. But yes, I do like her ass. Anyway, AJ Lee and Tamina win, but when they go to attack the Funkadactyls, Naomi actually gets the upper hand and manages to chase them off. So that's the only reason I'm mentioning that.
Which also should be noted that AJ Lee is now the longest reigning Divas champion since the title's creation a few years ago. So I guess even if she drops the title at this point, she's still technically made, history. Though a small note as it is, she's still gotten a major accomplishment.
This is one of those things that, like, yeah, it's a big deal, but it would have been a bigger deal if they kept the women's title around. Because it has such a longer history.
Yeah.
I mean, being the longest ever when the title's only been around for 2 years.
That's been more like 4, I think, hasn't it?
Okay, 4 years, even still. It's been around for less than 5 years. You know?
Yeah, but even then, it's still an accomplishment for her and an accomplishment for the Divas.
It's an accomplishment for her, but it's not as huge of an accomplishment as it would be, like I said, had the title had a longer history.
For the history it's had, I'm just saying that's why it's not like a huge thing, but it's something of note.
Yeah, it's of note, I guess. It's an asterisk, I guess.
No point in burying the Divas Championship over it. No matter what it comes down to, she has made history for that championship in its young lifespan.
I suppose. We now move on to Randy Orton versus Kofi Kingston. Now, Randy Orton was complaining in the back to Kane because he wanted to lash out against the Authority, but they weren't there. And Kane was like, listen, I understand you're frustrated with everything that's going on. I'll let you go and have a match with Kofi Kingston to cool off some steam. And Kofi's like, okay. Or Randy's like, okay. So Randy Orton and Kofi Kingston have a match. It's pretty much what you would have expected of the two. But the unexpected thing, Kofi won clean.
Yeah. Which by wrestling standard would mean that technically Kofi's earned a title shot.
Yes, Kofi has earned a title shot if that meant anything. It only matters if you're in the main event. Or if you're in the mid-card feud.
However, it's what happened after the match that made us groan.
Yes. Yeah. Randy Orton is pissed off. And he's just so angry that he lost to Kofi Kingston. He's had enough of all the bullshit from the Authority. He's just pent up, and he decides to take his anger out on a fan.
But wait a minute. That's not just any old fan. That's oh by God, we've been set back in time. It's John Cena's dad.
So, let me get this straight. WWE managed to go back in time twice. They had Kofi beat Orton. So we went back to 2009. And then they had Randy Orton attack John Cena's dad, going further back in time to 2007.
Yeesh.
Great Scott.
Fuck this feud.
It's like they're trying to rehash. And if they have an Iron Man match,
oh my God,
I'm gonna fucking shit. I don't want time travel if it means that. But anyway. Anything else really on here of note?
The end.
Yeah.
Wait, Big Show did come out, and
that was before that, though.
yeah, but they hyped up
Squash Swagger.
And then he decided he was gonna knock out Zeb Coulter for no reason.
Because that's your face, ladies and gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
Knocking out a defenseless old man. The only thing of note from that, though, is the backstage fallout after that was fucking hilarious because they had Zeb Coulter, in the training room being looked at by the doctor, and he was having, like, Vietnam flashbacks.
Oh my god.
Because he was so dazed and shit. He's like, we gotta secure the border. Or we gotta secure the perimeter. Move! Like talking like he's like back in the war.
Alright.
That was fucking funny.
So I guess they're building up for Batista versus Alberto Del Rio.
Yeah, Alberto Del Rio's been cutting promos on Batista, which obviously means Batista's coming back as a face.
Yep.
So
Batista does come back next week. So
yes, he does come back next week.
I expect him to squash Del Rio in his return. So
yeah, that's probably what's gonna happen. Probably gonna just powerbomb him and that'll be it.
Yep.
So we move on to the main event, and I gotta talk about a little build-up for this. Now, of course, we talked about the opening, which was Bray Wyatt and Daniel Bryan versus the Usos, and in the back we saw Kane and Brad Maddox talking about how it was complete chaos and we got to do something to fix that. And Brad Maddox comes up with the idea that we'll have a rematch on Raw, but it'll be inside a steel cage. And Kane goes, I like that idea, but I'm going to make it even better by saying that the door is going to be locked, and I will be the only one with the key. And at first, they really didn't have a problem with that. Steel cage matches are generally fun. And the match itself, not bad.
Not bad, yeah, no, but the Usos actually win.
The Usos win again. And Bray seems very frustrated with Daniel Bryan and tells Daniel he has to sacrifice himself again to Bray. And Bray goes to hit Sister Abigail, and Daniel actually dodges. And you hear the crowd starting to get hyped up, and all of a sudden Daniel Bryan starts attacking Bray Wyatt. And Daniel Bryan removes the suit, and he's back in his old gear again. And Daniel Bryan's a face again.
Already.
Which...
Already!
Okay, it's good that Daniel Bryan's not in the Wyatt family, but... why the fuck would you have him turn heel for a week?
Yeah. It was more like 2.
Even still.
1 full week, though.
If you go through the trouble of all that shit, why would you just suddenly turn him face again?
We have a theory. Actually, a lot of people have a theory about it. Is that during a basketball game, I think, in Michigan or something, there was a fucking massive yes chant. I don't know if you've seen the video of it. I looked at it the other day. I mean, this guy was talking on the microphone, hyping up his school, and he was like, all right, he's like, we're gonna win, blah blah blah, and then he starts going, yes, yes, and it's like the whole, Daniel Bryan pointing the fingers up. You're like, it's from Bryan, and the crowd just erupts. All you see is hands raising up, and you just hear it booming, yes, yes, yes.
Damn.
Yeah, it's crazy. Everyone in that arena was doing it.
I have no problem, per se, with Daniel Bryan turning face, but if you were going to pull the trigger on that so soon, why turn him heel at all?
Yeah.
And no, this isn't just complaining for the sake of complaining. This is a legitimate beef. You don't turn somebody heel just to turn him back a couple days later. And the kayfabe explanation is probably going to be like, I just waited for the opportunity to get close to you so I could attack you myself.
Which hopefully not.
That's probably what it's going to be, and it's going to be a huge cop-out. And I honestly think I think that might be part of it, but I do think also that part of the reason why they turned him back so quickly was because the crowd just did not buy into it at all.
Oh yeah, no, the crowd was... You could not
still
turn...
100% behind Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, no matter how hard they tried to make him heel.
Yeah. It's looking like they're going to end up building up a match between Bray and Bryan at the Rumble.
Yep.
That's what I think they're going to do. Bryan's probably going to... No, that makes no sense.
Well, go ahead and say it now.
Probably... Yeah, I'm going to say it now, but I was just thinking about it. Bray and Bryan have a match at the Rumble. Bryan wins. Now, since he's having a match at the Rumble, that means he's not in the Rumble. And
not necessarily.
Yeah. Well, unless they just don't have him in an actual match and just have Bray and Bryan as in the Rumble. Because they've done that before, too, where they've had a whole bunch of different feuds where they all settle their feuds in the Rumble.
Yep. Who knows?
You know?
Right now, who knows?
And I gotta say this, usually it's pretty predictable who's going to win the Rumble, because they usually put a lot of focus on one guy, but right now they're putting a lot of focus on a few people.
I mean, according to Kane, the Authority want Punk to win.
Yeah. But you got you got Punk, who's getting a lot of showtime right now in regards to the actual Rumble. Of course, Batista's getting hyped as being part of the Rumble. I'm sure Daniel Bryan is probably going to get some kind of Rumble hype soon. There's a few things it could be, and not only that, but who knows who we might see return. Sheamus hasn't been around for a while. Yep. You could see Sheamus return at the Rumble.
Jericho's in Pittsburgh the day before the Rumble.
Jericho could very easily... Well, he might be in the Rumble, but he might not win.
Well, he won't win, but we're talking about returns, kind of, so...
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Sheamus would win either if he came back. He just won a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm. But that's all we really have for Raw. So...
I guess it's time
let's move on to...
NXT.
Yep, we're going to move on to NXT now.
Started off really good. Really, really good start.
Started off great.
Really good start.
Started off great. We had a match between Adrian Neville and Tyler Breeze, and it was a great match.
Definitely one of the Tyler's better matches that I've seen since watching NXT.
Yeah, Tyler Breeze is a great character, but he never really gets enough time to show off what he can do. And this match let him show off what he can actually do in the ring.
I'd say he's just about ready.
He's ready. He is definitely ready for the main roster. He's definitely one of the people I see coming up this year.
Yeah, I can see him. You know how they always do, like 3 or 4 guys coming up after Mania? Like, I could see him being one of them.
Yeah, that's why that's my favorite time of the year, is the post-Mania stuff, because that's when we get all the new people coming up.
Yep.
But, honestly, Tyler Breeze is definitely ready for the main event, or not main event, but ready for...
the main roster.
Main roster. Well, he's ready for the main event too, but for different reasons. But that was a great match. It ended with Adrian Neville hitting the red arrow.
And it was fucking beautiful.
Definitely one of the definitely the best finisher in NXT at the moment.
Yeah.
Most people's finishers in NXT are pretty lousy.
Including Tyler Breeze's.
They're usually like very basic moves that most of the guys on the main roster just have in their normal repertoire.
Yep.
Like it's not even like typical new guy in WWE with a DDT or neckbreaker variant bad. It's like a spinning heel kick bad. A palm strike bad. Ugh. And even Bo Dallas's is like a belly-to-belly suplex.
Oof.
It's pretty brutal. But the Red Arrow is definitely a great finisher. And another great thing about this week's NXT, no Renee Young.
No, Renee Young. Oh my god, I think she's done down there.
It definitely makes a difference too.
Yes.
It definitely makes a difference. Commentary was actually semi-enjoyable this week. I didn't like that they just mysteriously turned Byron Saxton heel, unless he did something during the weeks that we haven't been on. Because admittedly, we did skip a couple of weeks of NXT. Usually we watch NXT before the show, but when we're not doing the show, we sometimes forget. And I got to go back and watch those episodes. I probably will at some point, but who knows, maybe not. Anyway, but Byron Saxton is suddenly heel. I don't know if he actually did something to turn heel.
Or maybe they just need a color commentator.
Yeah, well, because they just had a feud between Regal and Cesaro over Saxton. So maybe that had something to do with it.
Maybe.
But Tensai, who was on commentary, and I like Tensai's commentary. It's not necessarily anything to write home about in terms of like adding anything special, but it just seems like he was just he was there, but he didn't do anything to offend me either. So there's always something to say for that.
Yeah.
And then of course you have Tom Phillips, who I think is an okay play-by-play guy. I've been hearing more of him on Main Event lately, so he's now doing some main roster stuff at least.
Yep.
I kind of wish that Byron Saxton was doing more main roster stuff, because I think Byron Saxton is a good play-by-play commentator. But, yeah. Commentary was good this week. We now move on to our next two matches.
And when they advertised these, I was just like, no!
Oh, God. The first one.
CJ Parker.
In a squash against Jason Jordan. Which Jason Jordan, he's been around since FCW, and he is basically a giant jobber.
Yep.
That dude is fucking big. He's tall. But he's such a jobber. It's not even funny. CJ Parker should be a jobber, and they're trying to make him into something more.
And it's just not happening.
It's not working at all. The crowd hates CJ Parker. They hate him as much as they hate Bo Dallas. But CJ Parker wins with that stupid fucking palm strike and dances like a retard. We then move on to the next match, which was fucking brutal, which was actually worse.
Oh my, it was so... Okay, here we go. It was so bad that the crowd temporarily cheered for Bo Dallas.
It was so bad that the crowd it was just so... I almost wanted to skip it.
Yeah, you tried.
I mean, the match was only like 5 minutes long, but by the time we were at the last couple of minutes, I mean, I was practically on the nerve of breaking down. I was like, oh god. The match was making me physically ill. And what match was this? Bo Dallas versus Mojo Rawley.
Ugh.
Fire them both. Oh my god, Mojo is so terrible. I mean, Bo's shittiness is fucking well documented.
Yep.
I've said on this show many times, I think Bo Dallas is the worst thing to hit pro wrestling. I have to take that back. Mojo Rawley is the worst thing that ever happened to pro wrestling.
And the terrible thing is that apparently according to the dirt sheets, everyone loves him.
How? He's fucking terrible. He's not even like we talked about this before. You know how big he is green? But yet, he has room to improve and he's actually likable. So that kind of takes away from that. Mojo is not likable. He comes off as a fucking bumbling goof. And his actual wrestling is fucking garbage.
Yep.
He fails in both important areas for a member of a wrestling roster. He makes Bo Dallas look good, god damn it.
And that takes skill.
That is fucking criminal. So that match ended with Bo Dallas winning with a roll-up, so of course Matt loved that match.
Fuck that match.
Ugh, that match was awful. However, this was not the last match of the night, even though the guy said it was the main event.
He fucking
Weird.
He terrified us with that.
Yeah, they have a terrible habit of doing that on NXT now. Saying a match is the main event, but then it's next, or saying a match is next, but it's later.
Yep.
I've noticed that in the past few times we've watched NXT. But the final match of the night was Kofi Kingston versus Alexander Rusev.
And oh my god, we have to talk about Kofi.
Yeah, this was a startling revelation. Kofi Kingston is not over at all.
No.
No,
Rusev got a good little reaction from the crowd. When Kofi's music hit, you could hear crickets.
Dead silence. I almost wonder if they edited in a little bit of cheers in.
Yeah, I mean, it was just no one reacted at all.
And you know what? The crowd would show their disapproval of Kofi throughout that match.
Oh my, it got ridiculous. Now, Dave's computer decided it was time for some updates during the match. So he missed a lot of this part.
My computer shut down during the match, so Matt, take it away.
Alright, so, the wrestling itself really wasn't that bad. Rusev is really good, Kofi's pretty good. So, you were in for at least a decent match. Well, the crowd didn't give a shit. In the middle of the match, they started chanting for Goldberg. They chanted, "Feed me more." They started doing pinfall counts when there was no pinfall happening. So you're 1, 2, 3. There were some other chants that I couldn't hear, but they just didn't sound good.
Didn't you say they chanted for "Feed me more" too?
Yeah, they did. Yeah. And then, but here's the kicker. Here's how you know that a crowd. When you lose a crowd, there's always one sign that you're not getting them back, and it's when they start doing the wave.
Oof.
That's like the ultimate form of burying the talent in the ring, is that you don't care enough about what's going on that you want to do the wave.
How was the reaction when Kofi won?
Small, very, very minimal pop. A couple guys were up front clapping, but that was it.
Which is funny, because when I went to SmackDown last month, or was it 2 months ago now? I don't remember. It was 2 months ago. Holy shit, it was 2 months ago. But when I went to SmackDown, Kofi actually did get a bit of a reaction. So maybe it's just some maybe it's just some audiences?
Maybe.
Although there were a lot more kids on the main shows in the audience than there are in the NXT crowd. I do know that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just an issue because NXT is a very smart-heavy crowd. And also, it could just be the fact, too, that, yeah, Kofi's a main roster guy, but he's not a huge guy coming down to NXT. So they probably just figured they'd cheer their guy, an NXT guy, over a WWE guy. Who knows? But either way, that crowd buried the shit out of Kofi.
It was rough. It was very, very rough.
If I were Kofi, I would be crying in the back.
Yeah.
That was painful. I mean, from what I did see.
But
that crowd was just bad to Kofi.
So
how come they don't want me, man?
I would say it's kind of hard to say about NXT because NXT is like it's the one thing I don't really like about NXT is that storylines take way too long.
That's because they only have 1 hour.
Yeah, but even then, you can go weeks without progression, and suddenly you take a leap forward. But so there was nothing really progressed, But that
Well,
that open fucking match, I'd
that's
say
'cause
mid-card NXT.
yeah, it was a mid-card NXT because the first match was the only match that was really worth anything, and the last match was the only match that was really worth anything. But the reason why storylines don't progress on NXT as much is because that's kind of not the point of NXT. It's mostly a wrestling show with just wrestling, with very minimal story put in. That's how it's been since day one.
True, but it'd be better for some of the guys who don't get a lot of mic time to do some storylines that progress.
Yeah.
Because whether they like to admit it or not, promos, they need to be good at promos before they can move up.
Yeah, most of the stories in NXT are stuff that usually involve like, you have title, I want title, or you beat me once, I need to beat you.
Yeah.
That's about the much of story progression you're getting in NXT. NXT storylines could be compared to like Super Mario.
Just
They're
really
there.
basic.
They're there, but they're not the focus. And I'm perfectly okay with that. I am. I think there are ways to show off character without necessarily cutting promos every week and taking up time away from matches. But that's just me.
Well, I think that's gonna do it for wrestling.
I think that is going to do it for wrestling. Video games are next.
Alright. So, video games the past couple weeks, we're still in more of a dead period. The beginning of the year is always like this. This is nothing new. If anything, a lot of game companies are preparing themselves for E3 in June, preparing themselves for March, because March is a pretty big month for gaming. A lot of major releases in March. But yeah, there's not a lot of actual news to talk about. I'm trying to think here. If anything, you got a couple release dates, but nothing really. Not really like, oh my god, we must talk about this kind of deal.
Yeah, there's a couple of games coming out next month, but other than that, not really a whole lot.
Yeah, and as I said, that's just how this. That's how this time of the year always has been.
The only thing of note, and this is something I heard this morning, I didn't say anything to you yet about this, but we can add Square Enix to the bad guy list as far as YouTube goes.
They have been on my bad guy list for a very long time.
But recently a YouTube user by the name of SaigaCat, I think his name was, just had a huge issue with Square Enix putting a claim on Dragon Quest stuff.
Oh god.
So if you do Dragon Quest games,
Be careful doing anything Square Enix related if it's one of their RPGs. I've noticed. A few years ago when Final Fantasy 13-2 first came out, I actually got a blatant copyright strike on one of my older channels. For the last part of the playthrough.
Yeah, but SaigaCat's story is actually SaigaCat's stuff is pretty heartbreaking. He got a claim on his Dragon Quest X video, the first video, which had over 100,000 views, and it starts off pretty good. Like, okay, he decides to send something to Square Enix of America and see if they can help resolve this problem. Now, here's the thing about Dragon Quest X. It's not in North America. It's only in Japan, and there's been no word on whether or not they ever want to bring it to North America. Now, SaigaCat, he actually bought the game legitimately, imported it from Japan. And it's a game for, I want to say the Wii or the Wii U? I want to say the Wii, though.
See, that's... Game companies typically don't like that, honestly.
But, he talked to Square Enix of North America, and they're like, okay, we'll try to help you out. We'll set you up with Square Enix of Japan to see if you could talk to them. Nothing. Square Enix of Japan never responded to an email he sent to them. They waited until the last day before the deadline to give him a copyright strike.
Oh my god.
Full-on copyright strike, and he is pissed. And I don't blame him. And this is one of those gray areas where it's like, okay, the game is never coming to North America, or hasn't come to North America with no mention of plans to bring it to North America. What's the fucking harm in letting somebody LP it, where people who would have never have known about the game could see it?
I don't know. I just know that even when I imported Pirate Warriors 2, I was very, very careful about footage. Because typically a lot of companies are against imports for some reason. I do agree with you, though. It is a good way for people to get introduced to a game they might never get to play. But it's just like one of those weird things that for some odd reason game companies don't like it.
That's how I found out about Earthbound Zero. Was way back in the fucking day, Chugga Conroy, he did an LP of Earthbound Zero. It was the first time I've ever seen the game. And I was like, wow, this game looks fun. I'm going to play it myself. And then I eventually did an LP of it.
Yeah.
So, and let's be frank. I mean, without people showing off imported games, sometimes they don't get popular enough in America that warrants them to eventually bring it over.
Yep.
It's free advertising. Square Enix doesn't pay a fucking dime. YouTube or the partnership pays. So what's the fucking problem?
Who knows?
Anyway, I guess there is one other little bit of news. I'm looking in the chat right now. From Austin! But, apparently DDD was confirmed for the new Smash Brothers game.
Not a single fuck was given that day. Not a single fuck was given.
Well,
Where the fuck is Captain Falcon, damn it?
I use DDD in Brawl, so...
It would be a crime to have a Smash Brothers game and no Captain Falcon.
I'm sure he's going to be in it.
Well, normally he's one of the first ones confirmed because he's an original. That's why it's kind of like, where the fuck? What's going on? Don't toy with us, Nintendo.
Well, he was in the first one, not an original to Smash Brothers.
And that's what I meant. Like, he was one of the original roster members.
Yeah. Well, if I'm not mistaken, they waited forever to introduce Jigglypuff for Brawl the last time around, so... And she was the first hidden character, so...
Well...
In the original game. And one of the last ones you get in Brawl.
Oh.
So... You never know. Captain Falcon will probably be introduced.
Hopefully. But, yeah.
Moving on.
That's really it for, I think that's really it for game news. I guess we're gonna move on to probably the biggest part of this week's show is going to be the first impressions for a lot of games from me and from you.
Yeah.
In fact,
Although
I think
you'll
be reviewing Brutal Legend, won't you? You beat that.
Yeah, I guess I could talk about it real quick. I'm not going to talk about it for a real long while, because I did kind of... Most of the points I'm going to say here, I did mention the last time. But, Brutal Legend is actually a really good game. Well, for what I paid for it. For what I paid for it. I think that should be specified. I only paid $4.99 for it. So, if you can get the game for that cheap, get it. It's fun. And it's got that awesome fucking soundtrack. That alone is worth it. But, when I first got the game, I thought it was going to be like a generic rip-off of like God of War or Devil May Cry. That's not what I got. There are elements of that in the game, But there are also elements of like Grand Theft Auto where it's an open world and you can do missions and shit. There's also elements of strategy in there where you're pulling strategy game type stuff where you get into these huge battles and you gotta summon troops and you gotta lead them to do shit and you gotta do all kinds of stuff like that. You gotta defend bases. Sometimes it gets like a tower defense game. So it combines all these different genres together in marginally well. I really didn't have too much of a complaint in terms of the actual flow of the game and how well the different styles meshed. They all meshed pretty well, and the overall gameplay still remained the same for the most part. Occasionally, you do part of the story and you got to go through an area like you would in Devil May Cry. Occasionally, for part of the story, you're doing the strategy game part where you're defending an area or trying to get into an area, you know, and you have boss fights that are kind of like God of War. Kind of, not exactly, but kind of. And then of course, in between all that, you can go out into the world and find secondary missions to do, and just kill enemies and shit. You know, you have a vehicle that you can get updates for, and upgrades. And overall, I liked the game. It was actually really good. As far as my rating, I'm going to give it an upper mid-card rating. Not perfect. There are a couple of things about it that are a little iffy. But not too much I can really complain about. If you can find the game on the cheap end, by all means pick it up.
Alright, and that's not the only game we're going to talk about, because, we talked about this game last week, and last week I said I was going to buy it for you, and I wasn't kidding.
No.
It was my pick for RPG of the Year for 2013. Here are your first impressions of Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch.
Okay. Now, I'm going to tell you guys right now, it's going to be kind of a long one, because I'm almost done with the game, but I'm not quite there yet. But this is going to be spoilers.
Yeah, official spoiler alert. Official spoiler alert.
This is a big spoiler alert. So, if you don't want to hear spoilers, if you want to check out the game yourself, which I recommend, then by all means, stop listening now. Okay. I guess I'll talk about the story first, because there are a couple things I just want to address, and some things you're not going to agree with, Matt. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
Oh God, here we go. Let the fight begin.
Well, because I told you, this game is not perfect. It's not.
Didn't say it was.
I know that. I'm just saying. I'm just setting up. When I first started the game, I kind of went in with like, okay, Matt says this game is great, but how great is it really going to be? Is he just overhyping this? And I kind of went in not taking the game too seriously. And the opening starts, and the opening presentation, if you don't know what you're getting into, you're kind of going to feel the same way if you don't take the game seriously. It starts off, you're a young boy named Oliver, and you meet up with your friend Phil, and he builds this awesome car. Well, it looks awesome, but it turns out it wasn't as awesome as they thought it was because it explodes or some shit or breaks apart. And Oliver ends up in a river, drowning. And his mother mysteriously hears him, jumps in the river and saves him, has a heart attack and dies. And my first thought was, oh no, we are not pulling a Mother 3, are we? I'm praying we don't pull a Mother 3. Because, and this is just to briefly sidetrack for a minute, my biggest complaint with Mother 3 was how they killed Lucas's mother early, and the only reason they killed her was basically to give you a reason to hate the villains, and she really didn't play that integral of a role into the story itself. Thankfully, Ni no Kuni did not do that. She actually does play an integral role, even after death. And she played a huge role that you will uncover the mystery of as the game goes on. So I'm perfectly okay with that aspect. And so far I'm going through the game little by little, and I get into this fantasy world, and I start meeting all these characters, seeing all these towns, and I'm sitting there thinking, this is kind of nice, It's got its own unique charm. Some of the characters I don't like Drippy. I hated Drippy.
No one likes Drippy.
I fucking hated Drippy. He's a Scottish little bastard who won't shut the fuck up, and he constantly talks shit about you. So, I wanted to punt Drippy off of the face of the fucking planet. That being said, at least he doesn't get that bad way later in the game. And he does kind of have a marginal use. But some of the characters, the game does have a charm about it, a unique charm. And I will say this right now.
It's that Studio Ghibli charm.
I'll say this right now. Do not just pass this game off as it's for kiddies. Because you're going to miss out on a good game here. And I'm going to say this right now. This is a good game, but it's not without its flaws. I'm going to talk about the fighting mechanics. Now, the fighting mechanics take a little bit of adjusting to.
They do. I agree with this.
I am going to say that. They take a little bit of adjusting to. They are not perfect, but they are not as bad as what Zero Punctuation says they are. Because I did watch his review, and he said that they are like some of the worst controls in an RPG. Because he said that battles end up being the same for the most part. You end up running away trying to go through menus while enemies are attacking you. Which, yes, there is a fair bit of that. But once you figure out what to do and figure out quicker ways to get through everything, not that bad. I am going to give one major complaint, though, and I did say this to you already, which I said was fucking shitty, is that you get party members, and when you first start off, you don't have the ability to control them as well as you should. Like, you can set strategies for them, but you can't, if a boss does a big attack, you can't set it so that your allies defend. You don't get that until a fair bit later.
Yeah, for
and
some
that
reason,
is really shitty.
For some reason, I thought it was way earlier. I forgot how late it was.
They should have given you that the moment you got your first party member.
I agree.
That should have been something. That is something that they should have given you right off the bat, because that shit has cost me boss battles. And that is easily my biggest complaint with the actual combat system, is that some of the stuff, some basic mechanics were left out that would have basically helped me had I had them. And I'm not talking about I should have got the super powerful attack at the beginning of the game. Not something like that. Something as basic as being able to defend myself while not in control. That is something that I should have gotten early on. Once I got that, things got easier. The actual... I will say one thing too. The game has it has a pretty sharp difficulty curve.
It does.
You beat one area, you suddenly go to the next area, and you're getting your ass kicked pretty bad. So, you are going to experience a lot of grinding. It's just an inevitability. In fact, I'm right before I'm right at the penultimate dungeon of the game.
No, you're not.
Well, not penultimate, but you're at
a pretty major dungeon.
I'm at a major dungeon of the game before the major endgame stuff. And I had to sit around and grind to higher levels just to feel comfortable before moving on. It's an inevitability. It's going to happen.
Now,
you not only have to grind for... levels, but you need to grind for money as well because shit gets expensive.
There are some enemies in the game that you can encounter. They're little like round pudgy things, and they kind of look like my neighbor Totoro things. They look kind of like those. And now when you see them on the map, they will always run away from you. If you can catch them and kill them, they are worth like 10,000 XP.
I've never run into one.
They're in certain areas of the game. I can't remember which they are. I have to look it up because I had to look it up back when I was grinding. But I think there's one outside of Perididia, whatever the name of that place is. I know the best one is outside that area, and you can start racking up XP.
I'll have to remember that.
It makes grinding a lot easier.
I'll have to remember that then.
Yeah.
Because when I've been grinding, I've only been getting like 500 EXP a pop.
It's how I got from level 50 to level 70 for the end game in only about an hour and a half.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to look that up because I'm currently. I mean, I have the game on right now. Let me just pull this up real quick. Of course, okay. I am currently level 51. That is my current level right now. I am level 51 across the board.
Which means you're probably ready for the boss you're about to fight, just FYI. You're ready.
Anyway. So you're going through the game, and, like I said in the beginning, I was like, not taking the game seriously, but the game's charm kind of won me over. And it eventually got to the point where I wanted to just sit here and play this all goddamn day. And it has the Pokemon effect, which is kind of funny because there's a similar mechanic. Not exactly the same, but a similar mechanic, no less. But
which does add to the enjoyability of the game.
It has the Pokemon effect of being charming enough to win you over, to make you want to keep playing and seeing what goes on. And that's not necessarily because of the story, because I will admit, some parts of the story, some of the writing was kind of iffy. Like, there were just, like, moments where, and I've said this to you, where some of the characters seem a little dumb.
Yeah.
Like, there's one particular point in general, it's in the very beginning part of the game after the second town, where you go up this mountain called Old Smoky. And you go to fight the boss, and you see one of the major villains, Shadar, talk to you before this happens. And you fight the monster, and then your ally at the time, Esther, goes, "Was this Shadar's doing?" "No, you don't say. He just told you." That's one of the things where it's like, really? The writing can be a little weird. And I gotta, this is where I'm talking about for major spoilers. I'm going to talk about a scene that I just saw recently. You're about to head to Shadar's palace and take him out, and you fight a boss named Vileheart, who is there to basically stop. And he has this little orb called the Orb of Souls, or whatever the hell it was called. And supposedly, you're the soulmate of your mother, named Alicia, is supposedly trapped in there. Now, I guess I should explain all this bullshit about soulmates and whatnot. It's been established in this game that it's a parallel world, this fantasy world and the real world, and that and that because they're parallel worlds, each person has a soulmate that connects them between the real world and the fantasy world. So, if they're in the real world, there's another person in the fantasy world that is connected to them that shares their personality or looks identical to them. And that's been majorly established. And the reason why this is important is because the reason Oliver goes on this quest is because he was told that if he saves the soulmate of his mother, that she would come to life, that she would come back to life. Well, Oliver learns the terrible truth that the soulmate of his mother doesn't exist because she is from that world.
Dun, dun, dun.
And yeah, this is what I meant by spoilers, people. Turns out Oliver's quest, at least for what he originally, intended it for it to be, was for naught. Yeah.
Sad
It's actually
face.
kind of it's a sad moment, but here is where I have to put something into question. And this is what I was talking about, how you might disagree with me on this. They kind of made a plot hole. Kind of.
Explain
Not
what
so
this
much,
plot hole is, because chances are it's not what you think.
unless something happens in the future that explains this, because I have not beaten the game yet, but this might be a plot hole. We see the scene where Alicia is confronting Shadar, and Alicia says, I know how I'm going to beat you. I'm going to go to the parallel world, and I'm going to find your soulmate, and I'm going to take care of him to stop you. And Shadar says, I have no soulmate. I've separated myself from him. And, yeah, so there's that. And she goes, it doesn't matter. There's always one that'll be reborn. And Shadar tries to stop her, from going to the other parallel world. And what happens? She uses a spell called Breach Time. Now,
You've already explained how this is not a plot hole. She's going to She's going to a time where his soulmate is being reborn.
But all right. I'm just gonna say it right now. I already kind of know what happens, and to the extent of what you're talking about, Oliver is Shadar's soulmate. So if she traveled through time to go to the future, who is Oliver's father that would get her impregnated, or did she pull a Mary and just get pregnant from nothing?
That's never really explained.
And
not necessarily more as a plot hole, but not many RPGs, as we've talked about a lot of times off podcast, fathers are kind of like a big question mark anyway.
But that also leaves the question: if she used Breach Time to go into the future, they don't explain, did she use Gateway to go to the real world, or is the real world technically the future?
No.
Because it can't be both.
It's implied okay, first off, she uses Breach Time, she'd go to the future away from Shadar, and then she'd probably use Gateway. Just because you don't see it all happen, I mean, trust me, it's not the future. That's not, you're thinking a little too hard.
But Shadar is in the future. She doesn't necessarily get away from him.
No, she gets away from that. She gets away from that particular fight.
But if she also travels to the future,
Dave, just keep playing the game. You're hurting your brain.
No. I have to address this. If she travels to the future and Shadar knows that she traveled to the future, shouldn't the Shadar in the future should be waiting for her?
You still have some cutscenes to see.
Yeah, because unless they fucking...
You're not done yet.
Unless they somehow explain this, it's looking kind of iffy.
You're not done yet.
If not a plot hole, then at least somewhat sloppily written.
You're not done yet. Just keep playing the game. There's no point in calling out plot holes till the game's over.
Well, I felt it was at least something to be addressed.
You addressed it too soon.
Well,
just keep playing.
You know what? When I beat the game, I will come back to this point.
Okay.
If I'm wrong and they explain it, I'll admit I was wrong. But if not, I'm counting it as a plot hole.
Just keep playing the game.
So, anyway. But all in all, I will say that I do think Ni no Kuni is worth picking up. Is it for everybody? No. It is not for everybody. If you're not a fan of JRPGs, you're not going to like this. I'm just going to tell you right now, you are not going to like this game, and if you don't like when they combine turn-based RPGs with free movement of action RPGs, you're probably not going to like this either, because that is the entire gameplay mechanic of battle. There is another mechanic that I did not talk about, which is the familiar mechanic.
The
Familiars
Pokemon
are
mechanic.
basically... Yeah, familiars are basically little monsters that fight for you. You can well, it's not really capturing them. You can persuade them to join your side by using a character named Esther who can serenade them into joining your side. You can tame them. That's the word I was thinking of. But they're kind of interesting too. I use a couple of them, but I'm going to say this right now. Unless you really experiment, there's no point in catching too many of them, except for in the rare occasion where they get, like, for a side mission where it says, I want you to capture these monsters for me. Once you capture however many you're using for, for your main roster here, you really don't need much more than that, because, quite frankly, you're going to end up being underleveled if you keep switching them out.
Yep.
I switched out a couple of them just to try out some different ones, and I'm kind of paying for it. Like, for example, I have a couple of familiars right now. My strongest familiars are both level 51. No, one's 50, or two are 50, and one is 51. And I have not switched them out at all since I started, and they've been consistently leveling up, and they got to change their forms early enough. However, I switched out a couple of them, and they're way lower level than that. I have one that's level 37, and one that just metamorphosed. Is that the right word?
I'm not sure.
It changed. It evolved. I'll use the word evolve because it's easier for everyone to understand. It evolved just a little while ago, and it's only level 26. So, and I got some others that are varying levels. I got one that's level 39. I got a couple that are in the mid 40s to late 40s. And of course, there is an element cycle, just like there is in Pokemon. Although I noticed that it's not as deal breaking as Pokemon is. Like in Pokemon, the element cycle can make or break your Pokemon. In this game, not as much. But that's all I can really say about this game so far. I'm gonna finish the game probably this maybe not this week, but maybe next week. But I'm gonna come back and talk about this game for a little bit when I do finish it. But overall, I am gonna give it an upper mid-card rating. It's a good game, but it's not perfect, and it's not for everybody. But that's just my thoughts on this game.
Alright, so I guess there are a couple games that I've played lately that I want to talk about. And I think last time we did a podcast, I didn't really talk about them too much. Yesterday on stream here on Twitch, Dave and I did complete the Pokemon Master Lock Challenge for my Dragonite. So, that's the thing. That was fun. I guess I'd give that a main event experience. But I did play Don't Starve after it got released on PS4. Actually, as a free game for the PS Plus. And I don't like it that much, only because the game, it's one of those where it just really throws you in, and you doesn't tell you how to do anything or what you really need to do. And even though I'm sure some people do see appeal in that, personally I like to have somewhat of an idea, somewhat of a goal of what I need to accomplish. But So I haven't played it too much, so I can't say that much. But honestly, I haven't really enjoyed it because it's just so here, fuck you, here you go, just play the game. That's not my personal favorite choice of play style. Um, I have played Madden 25 now, and I can definitely say once again my point stands previously. This game is not for a casual football fan like me.
I don't think the Madden series was ever designed to be that way. I mean, in the original heyday, it probably was, but in the age of modern gaming, I think the Madden series was basically like supposed to be a football simulator.
Yeah, that's what it's really become. I mean, I can't say I'm not enjoying it because I'm learning a lot more about football.
Yeah,
But
if you
it's
want to
just
play like, if you want to like a real arcadey football game,
NFL
that's where you
Blitz.
go to like, yeah, the Blitz series. Yeah, the Blitz series.
But it kind of it's kind of a game of chance too. Some things just might not work out for you and whatnot, and there is definitely a lot of skill to it. But I'm still enjoying it, so can't say too much. I whooped the Giants with the Cowboys, so fuck you, Dave.
You cheated.
But besides that, I don't think I've played anything else new. Once again, that's mostly because there's nothing coming out. In fact, I was looking at my calendar and I have no game releases for the entire month of January.
Well, you got some of the stuff I gave you.
That's true. I need to really get into those, but I've already talked about these.
I'm talking about that one.
What?
I'm not just talking about that. I'm talking about Faster Than Light.
Yeah, I know. I know. I
I'm
know.
talking Guacamelee.
I am hitting up a lot of my backlog, but you know, it's just still an immense backlog. But that's really it, I think, for first impressions and reviews. So I guess it's time to talk about YouTube channels.
Yeah. YouTube channels, and then after that, we got to talk about the state of the podcast.
Yes.
I guess I'll go first. I just got a new controller for my PC recently, and I am getting back to recording. I'm waiting until I have Mega Man complete before I go back to recording any more of the Ditto Lock. Because I want to have a good backlog of that before I start uploading. The way I wanted to do it was that Mega Man would be during the weekdays, and the Ditto Lock would be going up on the weekends. That's the way I kind of wanted to do it. As far as what is of the more importance, Mega Man 3 is definitely taking precedent over the Ditto Lock. The Ditto Lock is just going to be a casual thing of me just playing the game. It is not a serious LP at all, and I am admitting right now that I am going to be speeding up through a lot of it. There isn't going to be any actual game sound. It's going to be music that I'm going to be using, just video game music. You know, that's going to be thrown in with me talking over the footage. And if I can't find video game footage, I might even just use silence. Actually, that probably would even be the safest bet, with all the bullshit going on YouTube. But, quite frankly, I'm more interested in getting Mega Man 3 done than I am in the Ditto Lock right now. That is being put on hold as far as recording goes, until Mega Man 3 is finished. And the Ditto Lock won't be going live until I get to about Celadon, when I have a good backlog of that. You know? So
Yep.
that is it as far as my YouTube channel goes. I don't know what I'm doing after Mega Man 3. I haven't even thought of it. I might go back to try the Golden Axe stuff, or maybe just Golden Axe 1 and see how that works before I go on with anything else. You know?
Yep.
But I don't know what's going on. And as far as and especially what with the confusion on YouTube right now, I'm just gonna play my cards and see how everything goes, and who knows, if I get hit, then whatever. And I'm just gonna say this, I know, Matt, you didn't have a problem with this from Nintendo, But I'm going to say this right now. If I get hit from Nintendo for the Ditto Lock Challenge, I'm going to put a halt to it right then and there. Because I am not going to fucking poke the bear with that one.
Now, if it wasn't almost anyone but Nintendo or Square Enix, I'd say fight it. But nah, Nintendo has made it clear they just don't care about LPers. So
Yeah, so. But that's it for me for YouTube.
alright, so on my end, I think my channel is probably definitely going through a bit of a boom when it comes to how much content's going up. I do have 3 ongoing projects, and that is the Master Lock Challenge, which, basically the way things kind of work with me is that if you watch it on Twitch, you're going to see it first. That's just how I do things. Then of course I break it up over YouTube over the course of a couple weeks and whatnot. And the Master Lock does have a definitive end date, and it is January 29th. So it's still pretty far out, but it does have a definitive end date. That is when the last part goes live, which means there'll be a new project quickly replacing it, starting probably the day after. Madden 25 will resume after taking a weekend off last weekend because I needed to record more. But over this week, I've recorded a nice chunk of Madden, probably getting me through the rest of January. But because of the way I've planned to upload Madden, it's only like 2 games a week. So essentially, that will be going on probably through most of February as well. Game Dev Tycoon will resume starting on Monday. It did take today off because I ran out of footage, but I'm going to record more, probably right after this podcast actually, because I really need to. And that will probably conclude. That's going to conclude very soon. I'm not exactly sure how soon, but I know I'm getting up there in completion on that. And next month, the only planned project I do have is that I'm playing with fire, but it's not going to be a launch day playthrough. But I will be doing Lightning Returns Final Fantasy 13. I'm basically going to wait a few days to see how other LPers are going to be affected, if at all. And I'm going to see how the actual aftermath of that goes. And, if I start uploading it and then I get hit, similar to Dave's Ditto Lock, I'm calling it. It's done. It's over.
Yeah, there's no point in trying to play with fire with that one.
Yeah, like if once again, I'm waiting to see if anyone gets hit. If no one gets hit, I'll start. But if I get hit, it's put directly onto the back burner. But I think that's it on my channel for now.
One more thing I did forget to mention on my channel, and this is kind of important. Every year, for the past few years, I do a Super Bowl sim using ROM hacks of Nintendo Super Bowl with updated rosters. And I will be doing one again this year. I'm thinking we might actually do commentary on this one this year, which I'm looking forward to that. Might actually be very entertaining and very fun. Past couple years, I've been accurate. I mean, not in terms of score, but I've been accurate in terms of who wins. So,
right.
Who knows? Maybe this year we'll get lucky. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because it also is going into the state of the podcast.
Yes.
Next week, I probably won't be here. So that either means Matt is going it alone, or he gets a replacement for me, or we're not doing it next week.
And we'll probably post something on the Facebook group and gauge interest. If no one wants to join me, I'll probably just say we'll take a week off.
You know what? John's pretty reliable. So you might be able to ask him.
Yeah.
Or Dan. Dan might be able to do it.
Yeah, we'll just have to see how next week goes. But it's the week after next that's going to be pretty big.
Oh yeah, in 2 weeks, on the 30th. Mark your calendars down, people. This is going to be pretty big. We not only have our Royal Rumble show, but we will also be doing a football thing because of the Super Bowl. We're gonna have our own little discussion about football. Matt and I are football fans. Just kind of recently too. I mean, I only got into football a couple years ago, and Matt really got into football this year.
Yeah.
And yes, we're bitter enemies when it comes to football, but we can agree football's awesome.
Football is pretty damn great.
We're gonna have a huge discussion about the Super Bowl, and we're gonna try and invite some guests.
In fact, we're gonna open the floodgates and say whoever wants to join can join. Pretty much.
If you are a football fan and you want to join our conversations about football, and I don't care what team you root for, you can even root for a team like the Jaguars for all we care.
The shitty ass
We'll
Jaguars.
make fun of you, but we don't care if you're a fan of them. Feel free to come in, and honestly, I think that's what makes it the most entertaining, is that even if you're a fan of a team that isn't in the Super Bowl this year, it just brings so many different viewpoints in. I know right now we have the championship games, and then that's it until the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So, and by the time that comes, we will know who is in the Super Bowl.
Yep.
So
let's go Seahawks.
I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to a Seahawks-Broncos game. That's what I really want. Fuck the Patriots. Fuck the 49ers. I want Seahawks-Broncos. But and in that Super Bowl, I won't care who wins, because I like the Broncos. I do. But yeah, if you're a fan of football, let us know on Facebook. Matt and I, we usually check the page quite often. So even if you make your own thing on the page and say, "Hey, I like football, and I'm interested in coming on the show," we'll talk to you. We'll tell you, hey, just you got to have a Skype account. We'll give you our Skype account, and we'll hook you up.
Yep. And that's not the only state of the
really
podcast.
The big show.
Yeah, the big show. Well,
that's a big show that's going to be coming up. We're really looking forward to that. And what else did you want to say?
I did say that starting soon, the show would finally be able to return to a MP3 format. However, I've continuously run into issues with converting the Twitch files over into MP3s. That's turning out to be a bitch. But I'm still working on it. However, starting with this episode, they will be put onto my personal YouTube channel immediately following the presentation. And then, of course, I'll try and get them up in MP3 format for the Facebook page. But, yeah, basically, it'll no longer be well, if you missed this on Twitch and you don't go look back, too bad. Because it will be returning to YouTube immediately following this episode. And I'll try and get it back in MP3 format later this week.
Of course, you're going to miss out on quite a few episodes in between because they've either been lost or whatever, what have you.
Yeah.
I just assume episode 6 through 16 is just not going up on YouTube.
I'm working on it. If it's still in my Twitch archive, I can pull it up today too. But yeah.
Yeah, because we have been severely neglecting the YouTube channel. And who knows, maybe we might start just doing stuff on the YouTube channel in general.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. Let's see how it goes. See what the reaction is. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for this week's show, however. Unless there's anything else you wanted to cover.
Yep, that sounds like... No, not really. I don't really have anything else. I'm probably going to, call it here. I'm Dave.
And I'm Matt.
And we're the SuperPlex Brothers.
Ooh, fuck yeah, synchronize that shit. What up?
Yep. Take care.